Wow, after a spectacular start to the inaugural Vainglory 5v5 preseason, we are ready for round 2. You are watching the Vainglory Premier League Preseasonal Invitational.
What does it take to mold a champion? Shape your destiny. Hone your craft. In mobile esports, it doesn't get any bigger than this. This is Vainglory, where you master powerful heroes, destroy the enemy Vain Crystal, and claim glory. 5-person teams are forged from across the globe. The best in the world begin their journey now. This season, elite teams attempt to survive a gauntlet of fierce competition from an onslaught of mobile superstars. They'll take their shots until a champion is crowned in their region. Today is where the molding begins, the preseason, where teams have the chance to establish their rhythm as a new 5-player team, try out strategies, and gel as a group in preparation for a historic run for the championship. The VPL Preseason Invitational begins now.
Welcome to Las Vegas, Nevada, where the town is buzzing with energy for competitive Vainglory 5v5. We are all set for an action between North American teams. And of course, so are the Elvis impersonators. Hello and welcome. I'm Kate Elliott and I'm joined by 2 of the biggest names in Vainglory, Tasty Bacon and Flash X. Guys, how excited are we to kick off the competitive 5v5 with North America?
I'm incredibly excited. We got to see Europe already take to the rise and show us what they have. We saw a lot of aggression. I'm looking to see if North America is going to be able to match that level of excitement.
Yeah, really impressed with how aggressive Europe was. North America traditionally being the dominant region as far as aggression goes. Maybe they'll even take it to a whole nother level. Who knows?
Well, let's focus on the big story out of North America. Tasty, what had your attention in the offseason?
I mean, I think the thing that had everyone's attention in the offseason is the Tribe acquisition of the former Cloud9 roster. Gabe Vizzle, Old School, and I Love Joseph joining up with the world champion Tribe Gaming. So that's going to be a very dominant team to deal with, at least on paper. We'll have to see how it works when we actually get into the games. We'll get a look at them a little bit later today in our second game of the day in North America. First, we will have Team Solo Mid taking on Tilt Rehab, and then we'll round out the day with Rogue going head-to-head against Nova Esports.
Fantastic. And in case you missed the action from across the pond earlier today, here's a quick wrap-up. Flash, take us through what happened.
Great stuff coming out of Europe. A lot of these early game aggressive fights. Huge upset, in my opinion. Clash taking down Queso. I think Queso acquiring that SK roster. People really expected them to be coming out on top. Wasn't the case. Yet Equinox in the second series taking down Wolf Esports. Executed very well. Their objective control all around the map was very clean and precise. And then finally in the last game, we did see some great stuff out of both of those teams as well, with Salty Potatoes taking down Rising Lotus.
That was incredibly intense to watch. If you missed it, please go back and watch it. But for now, let's turn over our attention to today's matchup between TSM and Tilt Rehab. Flash, who are you going to be paying attention to today?
It has got to be Kaz on the side of TSM. A rookie newcomer coming into the scene. He's only 13 years old. He's never competed in the Vainglory 8, but this kid is insane as far as his mechanics goes. He is shutting down a lot of these really big name players in scrims, and I'm very excited to see what he's going to be able to do in 5v5.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It was Kaz, Shaded Talent, and PvP Warrior were the Vision Gaming roster back in 3v3 that took the scene by storm, really. They completely rolled through the challengers, got themselves into the Vainglory 8. Of course, that was right at the end of the year, though, so they didn't actually get a chance to compete at this highest level. So now all 3 of those guys are going to be in VPL on different teams now, but we will get to see what they can bring to the table.
And do you, Bacon, have anyone specifically you're keeping an eye on Tilt Rehab?
For Tilt Rehab, I think we have to look at Archaic. Just because this is one of those teams very similar to like Equinox in Europe, where it's not a lot of super familiar names unless you've been following the challengers. Archaic is the only member of this roster that has experience in the Vainglory 8 at the highest level of competition. So they're going to be really trying to use his experience experience to help the rest of the team be steady and stable at this top level.
Yeah, he's got to make sure he's bringing that veteran experience into providing a little bit of insight, a little bit of control, helping them maneuver around this map and translating all of his knowledge from 3 versus 3 onto the Sovereign's Rise.
So coming into this game, what are you hoping to see from both of the teams? Are you hoping for more strategy or more aggression? Because we've got a little bit of both so far.
I always like the strategic play. I like seeing teams just focus on the objectives. And, you know, you don't need to rack up a ton of kills in order to win the games. If you can just force your opponent's hand, make your opponent play to your style, I think that is the most effective way to win games in 5v5.
Definitely. They need to make sure that they clearly explain and go over what their objectives are, exactly how they want to execute. And this is the first chance for these players in North America to prove their worth and see how much time they've been putting in during the offseason.
Absolutely. And do you have any predictions that we should know about?
I think for this first game, Tilt Rehab definitely will have an uphill battle. This Team Solo mid-roster has looked so good. They were formerly known as Child's Play, playing in some of the community tournaments, actually winning just about every one that they entered. So I think this Team Solo mid-roster is going to be very formidable, just like it always has been.
Awesome. I have one more question for you about our youngest player, 13 years old. That seems very young to a lot of people, but I'm sure all of us started playing games very young. How old were you when you started playing?
I don't even know.
Before
I don't
memories
even think
formed.
I can remember, but no, 13-year-old, for a lot of people that sounds young, but if you've been in the Vainglory scene, you're no stranger to this. I mean, Dienzio at starting all over, both getting their start at 13 years old in the pro scene, so it's not actually that unusual in the world of Vainglory.
Especially now that games are so prevalent, we're going to get a lot of young, very talented players going. But before we get into our next draft, we want to give you a look at the behind the scenes at our temporary set. It's all an illusion. And a lot of green. That's the most unflattering color ever. Please turn it back. My gosh. We'll be here for the remainder of the preseason. But then we are moving to our brand new PokerGo studios at the Aria Resort and Casino. Take a look at the new digs. We cannot wait to arrive. We'll be there ready to go June 2nd for the start of the VPL regular season.
I've been given a little bit of a sneak preview of some of the things that we're going to have planned.
Wow.
You're getting a look at some of the stuff here, but this doesn't even scratch the surface of what we're going to be able to do at that new studio. I personally cannot wait until we get there.
I can't either. Very exciting. Hopping on into the draft, though, TSM. This is exactly what we were talking about in Europe. Kroll gone, Celeste gone. That's going to allow TSM to pick up. Taka is their first pick. A huge comfort pick for Hammy up in the top lane. Personal inside information, I know that they can flex it a little bit, but that's definitely where I expect TSM to utilize that pick.
Yeah, Lyra and Rona actually going to be coming out for Tilt Rehab. Rona's a pick that I was kind of expecting to see a little bit more frequently than what we saw over in Europe. But again, they were getting so many power picks through the draft that it wasn't all that surprising to not see the Rona. When you're able to get something like Celeste, Batiste, you know, the Kroll, Rona kind of gets pushed to the back seat at that point. But with Kroll taken off the board, it opens up these opportunities for the Rona pick to now make an appearance.
I'm so curious while we're going through this draft. Do you have a dream team?
On 5v5, it's really tough to pick like a full dream composition. There's so many heroes that can work really well into different compositions.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff that can work. I'm a huge fan of crowd control-based compositions. With all the stuns, silences, fears, whatever it may be, putting all of those together and completely overwhelming the enemy team. You just don't have enough blocks to be able to deal with those. I personally have a lot of fun running those.
You are the most annoying and intelligent player to face against. It's so annoying. Just let me get my spells off. Oh, jeez.
I mean, as we look at this draft, one other thing I want to point out is now the Kestrel getting banned away. We saw Kestrel in just about every game over in Europe. So there's going to be another difference is going to have to come through, something that we haven't seen yet. Will have to come on to the Rise. Samuel, we expect Varya, Samuel, and Celeste to be the top 3 picks for that mid lane. So I wouldn't be surprised if TSM goes for that Varya within these next 2 picks, because you don't want to run into a situation. Or they're going to go for the 4th pick that I've talked about every so often, is that Scarf. So now they don't need to go for that Varya.
Yeah, the Scarf, definitely a great pick for TSM. That's a huge comfort pick for Chuck in the mid lane. It's something he has been practicing and putting a lot of time into perfecting those mechanics, and hopefully he can put them together here today.
Now I got to ask, obviously being from Team Solo Mid previously, Chuck picking up the scarf, is that any sort of response to what Zio has done to him in the past with the scarf pick?
No, Chuck's a pretty intelligent player. I don't think he lets other people get under his skin too much. I think that that's really him exploring and really learning how to understand and exploit the strengths of different heroes. Scarf is so strong at pushing turrets in 5 versus 5. They melt. SCMC released the 3.2 balance changes, I believe, yesterday, and that's one of the things that they're actually turning down on Scarf in the next update. But I know Chuck is definitely going to capitalize on that here today.
And we talked about picks that we haven't seen thus far yet. Blackfeather going to be grabbed there by Team Solomid. I know that that's a pick that Daniel has been playing a ton of in the community tournaments. I know Daniel's also one of these players that's super, super motivated. I got to talk to him a little bit before the preseason started, and he said he wants to make recognition for himself. He wants, when people talk about Team Solomid, he wants them to talk about him. And it's so frequently that these top laners, the solo laners, kind of go unnoticed a lot in 5 versus 5 games. They kind of get put on an island and are left to do their own thing. He wants to change that. He wants teams to have to focus him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great character attribution that he has. But it's not just Daniel. It is every single one of those players on the team. I had a very large role in helping hand in putting together that roster, and that is something that every single one of those guys really want. TSM didn't have a great year in 2018, but they're looking for some, or in 2017, they're looking for some redemption in 2018.
And something that just surprised me in this draft, aside from the Sky pick, that's a little bit of, not as conventional, but the Varia ban, once Scarf was already picked, is that something that you've seen, like if expecting Scarf to go into one of the side lanes? Or because I feel like Scarf, when you see Scarf, you expect mid lane, so the Varia doesn't seem like a necessary ban there. Yeah,
a little strange, a little surprising. Maybe they thought TSM had something up their sleeves that they just weren't prepared for. Chuck, not known for his Scarf play whatsoever, so maybe Tilt Rehab was just reading into that a little bit too much. They figured that they'd be putting it on someone else, but it's definitely going to be Scarf in the mid lane here today.
Well, now that we are done with that draft, I want to know your thoughts. I've already heard some of them, but now that there's a complete team.
I like the composition in terms of what they can do as a full team from Team Solomid, but Tilt Rehab, they kind of did that, the thing I talked about in Europe of drafting a lot of individually very strong heroes without necessarily having a really clear-cut composite, like win condition, aside from just winning the early lane. So I like the heroes on the side of Tilt Rehab, but if they can't get that early advantage, they're going to struggle.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with you there. TSM, definitely going to give them the upper hand. I think that they are on heroes that they are all very comfortable with, that they all know how to execute incredibly well. And I'm a little biased, but I think it's going to be pretty one-sided.
That sounds about right. But let me ask you one more. With a team that does seem to be heavily towards characters that can take care of themselves, what should their strategy be going in against a team that does have a stronger composition like this?
I think the focus for them is going to be, if they get a small advantage in the early game, push it as hard as you can. Start grouping up early. Start pushing down those turrets. We know Team Solomid's play style. If you've watched any of the community tournaments, they like to have Daniel split pushing all game long. If you can be prepared for that and have an answer to it, if you shut down Daniel on that Blackfeather, Team Solomid can start to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. TSM definitely very experienced as far as being pressured heavily goes. I know that that is something that a lot of the top tier teams have been doing. They've been focusing on putting a lot of pressure onto Daniel for that exact point that you mentioned. But with that, Daniel now has the experience to be able to adapt and reflect and basically get his job done all the time.
Now, what advice would you give to a new player that's trying to take on someone that is doing a double push? Very quickly, if you could. It's
definitely hard. You have to understand where to trade. If an enemy team is pushing for your bottom turret, then you push for their top turret, and you play across the map, especially if you're not on the same level playing field. That's one way to look at it.
Well, I hope that they do something like that. I think we're going to toss right over now to the very first 5v5 competitive match in the Vainglory Premier for North America.
All right, and here we go on to Sovereign's Rise for our first look at the North American 5v5 Vainglory Premier League. You can see right off the bat, very similar to what we saw over in Europe, Dragonborn, with teams just putting up a little bit of a fight when going after those initial orb treants. And it does look like the teams are going to kind of back off. We're not really going to see too much in terms of fighting over those treants.
Yeah, there's two parts to trying to get that win on those early engagements. One is you obviously want to get the CS, you want to get the buff that you get from either the crystal or the weapon treant, but you also want to get some vision down early so you can see the enemy team plotting through, taking farm, their rotations. You get all that information early, and it looks like, again, another skirmish here right around mid.
And this is exactly what having that vision can do for you. You can see where the enemy team is trying to rotate through. If they're invading your jungle, if they're trying to steal away some extra camps, if you spot that out, you could meet them in that river and try and get up a kill there. If Team Solomid had gotten a kill, that would have been amazing for them, but instead, they're just going to back off, kind of reset, take care of their own half of the map.
Absolutely, yeah. Trying to see which team wins that early vision game is something that we all should focus on. You can already see, like just with TSM, they're going to prioritize vision a little bit differently. Tilt Rehab, how they want to prioritize their lanes, that's where their vision priority is going to be. And it's all going to be important to kind of identifying their strategy. We see, again, a two-man push in mid, and down the bottom already, Daniel taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Maokai going to get turned around on, though. Has to use his own healing flask. And Black Feather Rona, this is a matchup that we've seen so many times on 3v3. But if it stays in this 1v1, it should actually start to swing the favor of Maokai. But in 5v5, it doesn't stay 1v1 for very long, as here comes Archaic making the moves and setting up that first blood for Maokai.
Oh, nice gank from Archaic coming from the mid, from that river right down into the lane. Able to get that. It's very important, too. You think about, like, Book of Eulogies got nerfed a little bit. Like, there's a lot of changes that makes, if you're going to go melee, it's not super easy. You've got to be a little cognitive of that. As Hammy, the Sky. Now, I love the Sky in the top lane. Sky is so good at harassing, and I think Alpha's going to have a lot of trouble.
Oh, Maokai actually going to get found out there and kind of caught himself. So 1 for 1 in terms of the kills. Archaic trying to get away. Will get the heal from Lyra. Ali Peterson coming in clutch, but it's just not going to be enough. And now can Ali Peterson get out of this, because Kaz and Shaded Talent are putting in the pressure, and Chuck throwing out the Spitfire. They will find another kill. Team Solo Mid, excellent rotation.
Yeah, great job punishing Tilt Rehab for that engage down in bot, and you know that's what you got to do. You've got to be able to respond quickly. You're going to see things kind of happen, and if you can predict it, that's great, but if you can't, you got to be at least be able to react to it and mitigate any kind of pressure you're going to get. There is Tilt Rehab trying to apply pressure, but they didn't execute correctly. TSM actually did a better job. 3v2, ends up getting the kill.
Yeah, great rotations from Team Solomid. And again, like we heard Flash saying on the desk, they've been playing together for quite some time. Like, this is a roster, they knew that they were going to be this 5v5 roster for probably longer than most other teams, with the exception of maybe Cloud9, or sorry, with the exception of Tribe picking up Cloud9. That announcement came very early in the offseason, so they knew they were going to be together, but then this Child's Play roster, even though that wasn't announced as Team Solo Mid until very late, they had been playing together as Child's Play for a long period of time in the offseason.
No, they really have. I mean, both these teams, you know, really looking to try to get that practice in early. That's really critical, I think, in 5v5.
Maokai very likely to be caught out again here. And I like what they've done here. They realize they have Maokai caught. They know that. Daniel just goes back into the lane and continues farming, while Kaz and Shaded Talent just finish off that kill and make sure that there's nowhere for Maokai to run. So knowing that getting multiple people involved in that kill isn't quite as important. If you can get a CS advantage, the CS numbers are worth so much more than a kill. If you can get a good CS lead, it is infinitely more valuable than just finding yourself one kill.
No, absolutely. Especially if you could get that by taking it away from the opposing team. If you could steal away some CS, it's usually worth, because you're denying gold while getting gold. A kill here or there. You got to be careful, though. I mean, obviously, you don't want to let that stack up. As we see, a nice rotation. TSM Chuck coming down into the mid here. He loves playing these mages, and this is great for mid lane. So we, of course, no surprise to see him on a Celeste or a Scarf. Here in this game, it's the Scarf. Haven't seen as much Scarf in 5v5 across all the teams, but this is just a hero that it just seems like Chuck can always find a way to bring it into meta.
It's like Flash said, it was a hero that he really started picking up recently. He started to learn how to play to this top level, but It's a hero that is so well made for 5v5. It's in fact was so strong that, you know, SMC, he is going to get nerfed in the next update because of how effectively he can push down turrets. Esme going to get dropped into that infinite reboot. Hammy and Kaz going to team up to try and finish off that kill. Esme does get back up, but it is short-lived, as that is another kill going the way of Team Solo Mid. And this is starting to look a little bit dicey for Tilt Rehab. I mentioned they really need to kind of get these early advantages if they want to be able to win out in these late game team fights, and they haven't been able to do that thus far.
Yeah, it's been a little dicey off and on. Maokai here trying to get some pressure. Lyra, the team's
full
go now.
rotation from Tilt Rehab looking for these kills. They really want to try and put some pressure onto Daniel, but Shaded Talent and Daniel, they don't really seem to be worried about this at all. Even 4-on-2, they just continue to farm up under the turret. They stay safe, don't lose out anything, and this is just allowing the rest of Team Solo Mid to continue farming. Now
That is scary. If you can't 4-man push and at least get some damage on the turret at this point of the game, that's a little bit of a bad sign. Looks like TSM good. They know how to defend, and that's going to be really important.
Oh, Kaz getting caught by Esme, though, is he's going to be trying to get out here using the Taki's very slippery, but will he be able to actually avoid the damage long enough? Not going to be the case, as that will be a kill. And first tier 3 items starting to come out now, Dragonborn. I think we need to start talking about, you know, what they're going to be doing, especially Chuck starting with a Frostburn.
Yeah, interesting item. One of those that, you know, you're trading off a little bit of damage right here. You can see
Dragon's Breath trading off the damage, but it doesn't really matter when you're able to keep everyone locked down for and slowed up for so long. They find another kill, and that was onto the mid laner of Tilt Rehab, so that's going to be a very effective kill. And again, it's all about what can you get off of these kills. And by taking out the mid laner, you get to build up your CS lead even further.
Yeah, Maokai, though, look at this. Going down here, actually picking up a turret by himself. I think catching Daniel and Shade Talent on an off rotation, going through the jungle, able to come in there, pushing that turret. This is something that Rona is really good. It's for a melee hero, really good at pushing that lane against even a ranged hero.
Yeah, playing a little ring around the rosy there, but Shaded Talent will have that stun available. Uses the ultimate to knock Maokai into the wall. They really want to punish for that turret take. They're going to get that kill. Now they have to get out from under the turret. Will they be able to answer with a turret of their own? I doubt it, because that turret is still very full health, but they at least let Maokai know that he is not going to be able to just make those plays without feeling some sort of punishment.
One of the advantages of that Frostburn on Chuck is, when you have a Lyra sitting up in the mid lane all the time, those sigils give that speed boost. But if you take that away by building a Frostburn, you absolutely help your case with the Spitfires, with the Goops, keeping the enemy team right where you want to throw the damage. Kind of negates having that Lyra there. You really don't get that speed.
Well, the turret's going to go down. They've almost got the kill onto Daniel, but Ali Peterson joining this fight very low on health. See Archaic just trying to put in the work onto this Black Feather. Going to use the attack of the pack as they continue to try and chase down. They're not going to be able to catch up to Daniel just yet. Yeah. Finally, they do get that burst with the Aftershock. Will take him out, but again, it's a turret traded for a single kill. That is perfectly fine, and Team Solo Mid able to answer the pressure that Tilt Rehab has brought out.
No, absolutely. They absolutely need to keep responding to TSM to stay in this game. Kills really, they don't matter, right? Like, you don't have to worry about them. Objectives are the only thing. We do see Kaz.
He tried to get over the wall.
He does get away, though.
He's going to be able to get away. He should be able to keep running. He's got the rest of his team here now, but meanwhile, Sino is just kind of in no man's land between these two turrets. But it's just going to be no real pressure getting thrown out because Team Solo Mid doesn't want to go diving deep under two turrets there, but they are going to be able to steal away that Treant. Shaded Talent actually picking that one up and getting himself the Crystal Orb. And somehow Kaz is still getting out of the situation and finding extra gold for himself by stealing away these camps.
Now that's incredible. To be able to survive, get the heal from the Treant is going to be important. We have it engaged, though, right up here in the mid. As that Sky doing a lot of damage with the forward barrage.
Yeah, Crystal Sky forward barrages still melt through health bars. And again, this is going to be very scary. Once they start going for turrets, Team Solo Mid with a Scarf and a Sky, those turrets will just be melting so fast. It's going to be very difficult for Tilt Rehab to defend. But Sino doing a good job right now with the Samuel there. He's got a bit of a skirmish here down by the Ghost Wing, and it's going to be actually very low health for Daniel. He's somehow holding on for now. It's going to be Kaz going down actually first. Daniel did get himself out of dodge, but now it's a 5-on-3 situation for Tilt Rehab, and Ghost Wing going lower and lower. Daniel going to try and make his way back in, but Attack of the Pack going out. That's going to spot everyone.
They get it.
The Ghost Wing gets stolen by Daniel over the wall with an on point.
You got to watch out, man. The big pause. Of course, not his name anymore. So good at taking away objectives and stealing them. We've seen it actually a few times already in other tournament-related matches. This guy is absolutely fantastic. He has really good timing skills. One thing I also know is you got Frostburn on both Hammy and on Chuck. So clearly, they want to be able to engage. They want to keep those fights close to them. They want to be able to just constantly dictate the pace. As Proc, trying to get that slow every time they go in these fights, they have to be a little careful here.
You look at what they're up against, and the slow, it affects the Alpha severely. It prevents the Fortress from being able to be as effective. It can prevent the Samuel from staying in his Drifting Dark. You can stop Rona from being able to use Red Mist on an entire team. Those slows are crucial in these team fights. So, again, the itemization in 5v5 is so much more important now than it even was in 3v3.
Right. It dictates your whole strategy. Nice job here by Tilt Rehab. They're just trying to keep their mid turret. It's their first turret to not go down out of all the lanes. Both the top and bottom have taken casualties, as Maokai might be getting a gank going on here.
The rest of Tilt Rehab is rotating down, though, so we should be okay. It's just kind of sticking to that 1v1. The rest of the teams are meeting up in the top. Kaz actually taking that 1v1 and winning it out, but now how's the rest of the skirmish going to go? It looks like it's actually pretty low health for Daniel, but he's a Black Feather. He's going to be fine. Kaz rejoining the fight. Chuck's going to help take down this turret as the fight rotates through the mid lane. And there's the big Dragon's Breath. Nice block on the Oblivion. And they just continue to burn on through. Team Solo Mid finding themselves a few more kills. They get 4 kills and a turret when all is said and done off this. Esme's going to try and defend, but you got to be careful. You're the only member left alive.
Oh my goodness. They're still pushing. Chuck, he actually was able to push that wave forward so he could clear out the minions, allow the turret to refocus on his minions, and he was able to start his Dragon Breath under turret with no fear whatsoever. I mean, this team knew exactly what they were doing in that engage, and they're going to get this next turret here. So just like that, the mid lane is crumbling for Tilt Rehab as well.
And while all that was going on, Hammy was still in the top lane. Kaz rotated up to join him as well, and they were able to make some progress in the top lane too. So Team Solo Mid just out-rotating Tilt Rehab right now, and being able to even, when they find 1v1s, Team Solo Mid has been winning those 1v1 battles as well. So this is starting to look really good for TSM as they just start methodically taking these turrets down. Another rotation down to the bottom lane. Tilt Rehab just not in a position to be able to answer this at all. You see how long they have to walk to get around that wall to try and get under their turret because Team Solo Mid had them blocked out.
No, this is just TSM's game right now to be able to push the lane. They're pushing on the bottom. Alpha's forced to go to top because the wave minions stacking up on that top lane as well. It's a real challenge if you don't manage the waves. You start to lose those lanes one by one. You're just going to have so much pushing your way. Tilt Rehab, though, they can still get back into this game. They are down, though, by a sizable gold lead.
They would need a very, very big team fight, but with Ghostwing just going over to Team Solo Mid, they're not likely to get it. Here comes the fight. They're going to be looking for the kills onto the Lyra. Lyra's so close to falling, but Allie Peterson still up. They get the kill onto Chuck without Scarf there. That's a lot of damage taken off the board, but you see the rest of the health for Team Solo Mid still very high. They're still looking for blood. They get the kill onto Allie Peterson, trying to rotate on through, but these slows, you're seeing the effects that they have as they find another kill to get the Alpha down into the reboot with the ultimate there being used. Maokai still trying to survive with that red mist, getting that fortified health, just not going to be hanging on for too much longer as this team fight continues to break down. Esme, again, getting targeted, getting slowed, getting taken out without having that passive available any longer, and Team Solo Mid, not the cleanest of team fights for them, but they still come out on top.
That is completely wild. TSM won that team fight because Tilt Rehab gets the first kill onto Chuck. I mean, they got the kill they wanted, but it wasn't enough. You saw the forward barrage. You're disengaging. I don't know why Lyra couldn't just get the team over the hump around that bush on the tri-shop, because once that forward barrage came out, it just melted Lyra, and then it just started to lay into the rest of the team.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when you're dealing with a Scarf and a Sky, you have to really worry about the full team positioning, because someone has to be eating that damage, and you have to try and choose who do you want to be the target. Lyra's not the choice there. I think Rona is really your best option, maybe the Samuel because he has so much sustain, but you cannot have your captain who needs to be staying alive to provide all the utility to the team being the one that eats that damage up front.
Yeah, one of the squishier captains in the game too, so that's just a challenge that Tilt Rehab might have to face as they start looking at it. I mean, they really started off that team fight strong. Now you've got TSM here, and they're starting to resubmit their presence on the map, on the jungle side as well for the enemy. Like, they've got vision in different spots. They don't have vision on Black Cloud, though.
They're saving the weapon treant for Esme to come over and take, so that they have it on one of their two characters that they need that weapon buff on. That was an opportunity. I'm surprised Team Solomid didn't actually go for Black Claw. I kind of figured they would try and force a fight there, but it is a little bit risky. If Black Claw gets stolen from you, all of a sudden games can turn around very, very quickly with a good Black Claw push. Team Solomid trying to just push in without taking that risk. Daniel's eating a lot of damage. Oblivion's not going to connect, but there goes Esme deep into the team. You've got Ali Peterson trying to take Hammy out of the fight, but that's two members on one. They all rotate over onto Hammy, though. Hammy is a sitting duck, a great portal for Tilt Rehab. Can they continue to find this fight, though? You see Team Solomid, most of them still very healthy with the exception of Daniel. And Tilt Rehab in a little bit of trouble, but Esme has that infinite reboot still available. They're looking for Kaz. They have no idea where Kaz went. Finally, they spot him out with that scout cam, and Kaz is going to be in trouble as well. So Tilt Rehab, great job picking off two members of Team Solomid.
Woo, look at that vision actually in that bush. Really bad spot for Kaz to go because they had triple scout cams. That just goes to show you how much respect they have right now for Kaz. Kaz is able to get away so easily.
This is dangerous. Even though it's a 5-on-3 for now, this is still really dangerous because of the AoE that can come out. You have Shaded Talent who can throw that big bada bing into the middle of things. Chuck can just throw out Spitfires and Groups to start melting things, but they decide to go right onto Chuck. The great portal. Once again, Ali Peterson setting up Tilt Rehab to find these kills.
Yeah, that was not a Black Claw take. That was a psych take. They definitely wanted to bait them in to a position where, you know, TSM thought they could take it. So now they've got a better shot.
Bada being used. Black Claw does. They stuck onto the Black Claw, and they do get the Black Claw secured. Tilt Rehab maybe trying to turn this game around. Archaic very low on this Fortress, but he's going to go right back in. They need his damage. They found themselves a Kaz, and they take down Taka. Black Claw just getting to that first turret. That's the crazy. 17 minutes in, the first turret in the mid lane getting destroyed, but with a Black Claw you can make a lot of work happen here. You got to keep an eye on where's Team Solomid going to respond. Will they need to send everyone into this mid lane to try and stop it. They only have 3 members up. Black Claw is just making quick work of these turrets, and they are really finding themselves a lot of gold here. Tilt Rehab is.
Absolutely. Black Cloud now finally starting to take the damage as the Scarf comes out. Scarf and Sky are going to be your 2 primary objectives, takedowns. So finally able to bring down Black Claw. That was a very impressive push here.
I love what Tilt Rehab did, though. They could have stuck around Black Claw and pushed that middle turret, taken that down. Instead, they wanted to make sure that they get a little bit of pressure on the side lanes as well. They all rotate to the top, take that top turret down, let the Black Claw get about half of that middle turret's health. Now it's something that they can revisit if they can find another team fight. But right now, Tilt Rehab, these picks that they have been able to secure, thanks to their vision, thanks to just being able to get themselves into the proper position, and Ali Peterson with this Lyra play and these portals have been phenomenal.
Well, they brought it closer. I mean, they're definitely starting to make a shot or make a statement as that they could potentially take this match. You know, if this was a long series, it'd be absolutely exciting. But TSM still has that slight lead, a sizable gold lead, a small objective lead. I think just honestly, some vision placement problems. You know, they're allowing Rehab to get some control and vision and then dictate the fights around that. That puts Kaz in a bad spot. Kaz needs to be able to get out and get back in.
Oh, well, we're about to have a team, but there's a bada bing going in, but it doesn't hit anyone. That gets blocked. Great job by Tilt Rehab to reset that fight. Big portal into the entire team. Sino with that big AoE, they find 1 kill. That Team Solomid does. They take down Ali Peterson. That means that engagement is now going to be very difficult to make. Gets the kill onto the Fortress and the Alpha, and Tilt Rehab going maybe a little too aggressive there, trying to take a team fight before they were really ready to go all in on it. And it just looked like there was a little miscommunication, and it cost them big. This might even be the game after the ace comes through for Team Solomid.
Yeah, I thought Malachi might get another kill there and find a way to survive, but unfortunately he does go down to finish off the ace, and that is match, Tasty Bacon. A very impressive game. Team Solomid coming in clutch.
A great game by Team Solomid through the early to mid game, but I have to give so much credit to Tilt Rehab staying focused and finding themselves those opportunities to get a couple of picks here and there, really make this game a lot closer than it was prior to that pick onto the Sky. It was just a really great performance from Tilt Rehab to not get tilted. You know, I guess that Rehab worked out for them in this instance. Unfortunately, it didn't quite get them all the way to a victory, but definitely showing signs of life and showing a lot of promise.
Wow, guys. TSM defeats Tilt Rehab. What happened? Break it down for me.
Definitely a really clean start out of the side of TSM. In classic TSM fashion, I think they got a little overconfident, a little too cocky. They were not playing clean in towards the later part of the mid-game. But, yeah, they executed very well. Kaz, as we mentioned in the pregame, very strong start onto that Taka. He executed exactly how he needed to. And once their heroes really scaled up, especially in that last team fight, Chuck was able to reposition on the Scarf, get in the backlines where some of the earlier team fights, he was a little bit too far forward. He was getting caught out. Tilt Rehab, huge credit to them. They were executing exactly how they need to, going straight on to Chuck. But yeah, in those last team fights, he managed to reposition absolutely perfectly, and that's ultimately what won them the game.
And I hear you have a fantastic highlight for us. Would we like to share that? I think we would.
Oh, yeah.
Let's share it. In a second.
Jumping on into it, yeah, this was around the 12-minute mark where TSM, channeling the inner Vonsi spirit, no fear, just fight, going in between two turrets in this mid lane, diving the side of Tilt Rehab. Not only do they pick up a bunch of kills, but they managed to grab 2 turrets on the back end of it as well. This was a pivotal moment. It extended their gold lead pretty significantly and definitely set the tone for the rest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was when Team Summit was really in the driver's seat of this game. Again, so we did come back a bit later on, but this was what we were expecting from this Team Soul mid roster: the aggressive play, the just knowing how far they can push their limits. And if they can play like that for the full duration of the game, then they're one of these teams that would be very, very difficult for anyone to beat.
All right, let's turn our attention to the next matchup. Tribe versus Hammers Esports. What are your thoughts on the matchup, guys?
This is one that it's very similar to our first game where there is a clear favorite. I don't think anyone would look at this matchup on paper and not pick Tribe to be the favorites to win this unless you're a member of the Hammers Esports organization. So, again, this is one of those games where you're just trying to prove that you have what it takes to hang with these bigger teams.
Definitely. And just to play devil's advocate, Tribe has not looked that strong in some of these community preseason early game tournaments. They kind of got manhandled by Nova's Esports last night in NACL. They lost to TSM in the VIS Pro, which was the first really official tournament for 5v5. And on paper, exactly like you said, I fully expect them to be a very strong team, but they're not looking as strong as they should this early on in the season.
This really should square up to be a very, very good matchup between these two teams. Bacon, what players should we be keeping an eye on here today?
I think this one is... It's very difficult to pick a single player to watch because there's so many big names in this matchup, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on Gabe Vizzle. He's one of these players that has switched roles probably more than anyone else in Vainglory, and now he's making another transition to being one of the laners for the side of Tribe, and that's pretty much the only role he hasn't been professional in. He's been a jungler, he's been a captain before, now going into this laning role. It's new ground for him once again, but if anyone has shown that they can make those changes and not have it impact their play whatsoever, I think Gabe Vizzle's the guy.
Let's see how he does. Flash, who's your pick?
Definitely has to be probably the Hammers roster for the most part, very new, very early on. It's got to be Starboy though. He has probably the most competitive experience on that Hammers Esports team. But he, in 3 versus 3, was a captain. He's now transitioning as well, similar to Gabe, into one of those lane roles. I believe his intention is to play the bot lane, but I think a lot of these rosters are still exploring different options as far as how and where they want their players to ultimately fill out.
And let's also remember, in 3v3, Starboy was playing for Nova. They were the team that kind of brought a lot of new strategies to the table. They were the team that started running the Captain Batiste when no one else was doing it. They were really one of the first teams to run that Catherine Batiste combo that dominated the Vainglory 8 for multiple weeks in a row. So, that just having that sort of mind behind in your squad that can come up with these combos that other people may not think of is something that is incredibly valuable.
Well, I absolutely cannot wait to see what happens on this draft. But before that, who do you think, apart from what you've spoken of already, these teams are going to pick as their top choices for heroes?
Definitely really interesting. Only time will tell. The North American meta very different from what we have seen over in Europe. Starboy, though, I think is a really interesting point. He has a very diverse hero pool. As Bacon mentioned, he likes doing things very off-meta. We saw Catherine as one of his most played heroes, and I've actually heard that a few teams are running lane Catherine. So
we saw that in Europe, too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It wouldn't be too much of a surprise. I'm going to be looking... obviously, the mid lane, we've talked about plenty how a lot of teams have started to pick up the core 4 mid laners. And Old School is one of these guys that has really put in a lot of work on the Varia. His Varia has become very frightening. When it really wasn't too terrifying when Varia first came out, he didn't play it a whole lot. He's really started to adapt to this hero and has made a name for himself with it.
Yeah.
Wow. And in case you guys missed what happened earlier, why don't we have a look at some of the EU highlights from the matches we had today?
Really great stuff. Clash going in against Queso. Huge upset. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Very excited to see where that team goes in the future. Equinox taking down Wolves Esports. Some of the newer guys around the block doing a great job proving that they deserve to be a part of this VPL. And then finally with Salty Potatoes getting the upper hand, taking victory there with pretty much a very heavy CC composition that I mentioned I like to play myself, and great stuff out of Europe.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. If you missed the European broadcast, make sure you go back and check it. Make sure you tune in bright and early tomorrow so that you can catch the European broadcast tomorrow as well. It's a lot of really good stuff that we're starting to see out of Europe, which for those who have been involved in the 3v3 environment, it's really refreshing to see that, you know, the aggression coming out from Europe and the early plays that are being made.
Yeah, I did watch you guys watching earlier. There were a couple of moments that took you by surprise. You were surprised that the teams made the move they did. Were there any moves that were made that really shocked you?
I think for me, it was a lot of it was in that Clash Queso game, just how quickly Clash just put the full pressure onto the turrets. Like I was expecting teams to go after the turrets and focus turrets, but I did not expect that. It was about 5 minutes in, and Clash was already like on to tier 2 and tier 3 turrets. It was really impressive stuff for me.
Absolutely. How about you, Flash?
Yeah, I 100% agree with your point. The extent to how decisive they were as far as knowing exactly what they want to do at all times, making sure that they are pushing every single advantage they get throughout the entire game was really incredible.
And for the last few North American games we have going, what are you hoping to see from the teams? Are you expecting to see very similar play that we've already seen with the EU groups, or because it separates the North American groups, are you expecting some different strategies?
I think we'll definitely see a few different strategies. There's always differences between different regions and what metas they bring to the table. And we've already seen a little bit of that difference in style just from one game in North America. I think we'll continue to see that as we go on. But ultimately, once you get to the mid to late game, everyone's meta sort of becomes the same. Of you have to group up, you have to find yourself picks on your opponents when possible, and just go for those objectives.
I feel like we've forgotten something really important right now. Wait, where's Joe? Where is he? Oh, he's still hanging out.
We got him into the office. We got him into the studio for a little bit earlier, but he just decided, you know what? I like the strip a little bit better.
Yeah,
back out.
He's definitely enjoying his cardboard self around Vegas, taking in all the sights.
Yeah, having a little bit of fun at Joe's expense. Obviously, waiting for his visa. And it wouldn't be esports without a visa issue. Let's be honest here.
That is
Every
true.
single esports
Poor
event,
Joe.
just about.
Let's have another word from Joe over here.
Munch, we're in Vegas, but we can't find you. Where you at?
Hey, I'm still in the UK, guys. I'm watching the stream. I'm here. I'm participating, but I'm just not in Vegas just yet.
Man, what's going on? Why aren't you here? We were all expecting you to be here.
Well, there's been a couple of little snafus with the visa stuff so far. It's been a little bit delayed, but it's all hunky-dory. We're just fixing things up and making sure that I can come over there legally so I don't get arrested on the border, because I'm not going to be able to do much Vainglory from American prisons. So we're just getting all of that resolved, and then I'm going to come over and join you guys in Las Vegas.
All right, man. We understand that. We'll definitely catch you later.
All right. Have a great season, guys.
Guys, we are so excited to get into this, but tell me, what are your thoughts right now on this game, on this match?
I mean, for this match coming up, I'm again, I'm a little worried for a team like Hammers Esports because they do have a lot of very young and newer players. And going up against Tribe, it can be very daunting. And the one thing, if I could go into the voice comms for Hammers before this game and to talk to them, I would, you wanted to explain to them, you just got to put your best foot forward. You got to just put on as good of a showing you can. It's preseason. Don't put too much pressure on yourselves. Just go out there, show what you can do, make a name for yourselves, and if you don't come out on top, don't worry about it. This is not the end of the world. It's only week 1 of the preseason. There's a lot of time to put in work and improve your gameplay even further than what you've already done.
Definitely, yeah. No one's going to fault them for faltering at the hands of Tribe. That being said, it's a huge opportunity for them. For a lot of people, they excel in situations like that. They're like, we have an opportunity to prove that we can take down Tribe, and some people really come out in their best form possible. And how that exactly shapes up, only time's going to tell.
Yeah, and I mean, I was going to get to that a little bit later on, but it's the opposite of what I just said. Is we kind of talking about if you don't worry about it if you lose them, but if you beat Tribe, if Hammer shows up today and they beat Tribe, that is massive for their confidence. And then you got to start putting the question marks over on Tribe's side of the camp because they're supposed to be this super team.
Yeah.
And if they don't perform to the level that we expect, there's going to be a lot of question marks over there. Obviously, they could always try and fall back on the, we perform when it's on the live stage because both of those rosters have always been known for performing on the live stage and not having the best of performances during the online portions. But once the preseason over, once we get into the regular season, you're not going to have many opportunities. If you don't perform in the regular season, you're not going to any live events, so you're not going to have that chance to get those live buffs. So I really hope that Tribe can move on from the 3v3 issues those two rosters had of performing during the regular season.
What's funny is I love that started with no pressure, but really intense pressure. You actually got me sweating a little bit. I'm nervous for that. So coming into the North American season, what's the big story?
So last night, for those of you who caught the NACL, Gabe actually went back to captain, and it was Max Green playing in the top lane. Now, whether or not that's to say that's a permanent switch, maybe they were trying to hide strategies for today, I don't really know, but it definitely seems like they are still trying to figure things out and figure out how exactly their roster is going to fit together in the best way possible. But I think that's going to be something to really watch out for and look out for this game.
Yeah, and we saw on Twitter, a week or so ago, Gabe Vizzle tweeted out that he was going to be subbing. I think most people were able to figure out that was just a joke from him, but maybe there are some roster shuffles that they're still trying to figure out who's going to be playing what role. Because, when you bring on 2 3v3 rosters and bring them together for 5v5, someone has to switch. Someone has to play something that they're not as comfortable doing. And that's something that Tribe has to figure out is who's going to be playing where. And they need to focus on that because if you're just constantly switching around roles, you're not going to be at the top of your game on any of them.
I have a question for you. How do you feel about Tribe and Cloud9 doing their merge there?
Definitely the deepest roster as far as 5v5 goes. I mean, obviously the starting lineup is phenomenal, but on top of that, they have T-Tigers and Zelciar still subbing for the team. T-Tigers focusing a little bit on his school. Zelciar has been with that team for as long as I can remember, both star-studded players that if Tribe ever feels like they need to make drastic changes, they have the talent there to be able to make them.
Hey, Flash, so you were a player for a very, very long time. How does it feel to be sitting at this desk right now doing this side of the job?
It's different. I mean, this is really my first time doing it.
You're killing it. Killing
Thank you. I appreciate that. But no, it's a great way to – it's a very different perspective. I'm having a lot of fun with it and definitely excited to be able to continue it throughout the year.
So what has more pressure? Trying to play in the games on the stream or being on the desk for the stream?
That's a good question.
I'll say as far as today goes, today was way more pressure than any tournament I've ever competed in. But I think that, like any new experience, I'll grow into it and be a lot more comfortable with it as time goes on.
I hate to use the cheesy saying, but pressure makes diamonds. And you have a natural talent for this, so I'm excited to see where you go from here. How do you feel? You're a bit of a... you're a bit established already. You
been
know
around the block on the desk a few times now. Yeah, no, it's
around the desk.
It's been a lot of fun. Today's been definitely interesting. Getting through a few hiccups, as some of you have obviously noticed, but also casting all day long as well. Very tiring, but I want to give a huge shout out to everyone that's behind the scenes,
you guys are
putting on a lot
amazing.
of work, getting all those hiccups sorted out.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, if you've been following some of the stuff on Twitter, Fuji I know has been very active talking about, you know, just about what's coming forward and how much this is going to evolve. Like this is day one. It's going to improve. We're going to do better tomorrow. We're going to do better next week. We're going to do better the week after that. Every single week will be an improvement. And of course, that new studio.
Life.
That new studio in a month.
Dying to be there. I'm
It
so
will
jealous
be
I don't
excellent.
get to be there. I wanted to ask you, Tasty. By the way, I noticed that I call you Tasty and other hosts call you Bacon, and I think that's pretty cute. Tasty. How are you doing with keeping up with all of the casting during the games? You're really on it. How does it feel to be doing that?
It's not too unfamiliar for me. Like I've was a caster before I got onto the analyst desk. I've been in both roles plenty of times, so it's just kind of you know, mixing both of what the things I love to do. So I enjoy both roles. So I have a blast doing it. It's definitely tiring. It's definitely draining, but it is. It's all
you
for
can
the
tell
production.
that you love it. You can tell that you guys have a lot of passion for this, and I absolutely love that. And that really comes across on camera. And speaking of coming across on camera, here's an honest moment from us. We're actually just waiting for the players to get ready for the draft, so that's why we're having a little chit chat here. There are a couple of players on the teams not quite ready to pick their heroes. Maybe some of that pressure you were talking about earlier is getting to them, and they needed a little breather. But
again, it's not an esports production without some sort of delay. It happens every time, but hopefully the players can get themselves sorted. So this is the players' fault. If you want someone to blame, go message all of them on Twitter and tell them to get their act together and get in the lobbies quicker.
I am very curious to ask you, after this is all done, this weekend is done, before next weekend, how much are you going to go play Vainglory? Because you've been watching it and now you've got something to prove. You've got to show that you know how to play.
Yeah, I mean, retiring from the professional scene and having to sit here for the first time ever and watch all my peers have all the fun of competing, I definitely am going to make sure that I'm playing
Do you feel a little bit like a boy on the other side of a window watching your friends play in the field with a ball?
Exactly.
I wish I had a ball.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you're here with us. You've got us. That's all right.
Yeah, I'll definitely be getting onto the Rise a lot more. I always get a lot more active in-game on Vainglory during the regular seasons.
Yeah.
It's just, like, I don't play during the weekends, but because it's almost an overload. But once during the week, I am all about getting into some games, getting some Weapon Arden out onto the Rise, and making sure everyone knows about that. But
I want all those skins. We are
to
in the draft. Let's do this.
And right off the bat, Flash X Churnwalker. This was one of those heroes that when 5v5 was first announced, everyone was super excited for the 5 change. I was trying to think of, like, it's, you know, double, triple, quadruple. Then I drew a blank. Sextuple of the chains. But that is huge playmaking opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And like we said, the Celeste and the Kroll coming off the board very early on. I definitely think the Kestrel was a targeted ban towards both Dienzio and perhaps Old School in the mid lane, or even a CP Kestrel out of the jungle. So interesting stuff there, but we haven't seen any Churnwalker yet today. I definitely think that that can be something that is very successful in 5 versus 5. We actually saw it a lot in the community leagues very early on into 3.1. It seems like the meta has shifted a little bit. Tony seeing a lot of play now that he, for the most part in Rank 2, he was permanently banned. But these teams are actually getting to play him in these 5v5 competitive games, and I think it's great to see his kit coming to the Sovereign's Rise.
Yeah, there's so many playmaking opportunities with Tony, with the taunt alone, let alone the bada bing that can come through, the extra barriers he can provide, the stuns. It's very, very versatile hero, but competing against a Churnwalker and a Kroll, that's a lot of crowd control built into their 2 kits as well. So this could be a very CC-heavy matchup.
Absolutely, and one of the best heroes to pair with that Churnwalker is Samuel, the AoE, once he starts those Malice and Verdicts with his Drifting Dark. If you have multiple people chained up, that is going to start doing a ton of damage, and that's something the Tribe's really going to have to be careful about.
Yeah, you have to be very wary of not only your positioning, but your opponent's positioning as well when the team fights start breaking out. Idris going to be picked up too. This is another hero that in the community tournaments we saw a lot of play, usually with the CP OP build path, going for that extra range, the big damage out of the Chakram. But again, it's a hero that we have not seen yet today in the preseason invitational.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go ahead and say that is going to be old school in the mid lane playing that. I have seen him play that a ton in scrims. He's very good at it. He's very comfortable on it. And then it's Grace, another hero that we have not seen yet today that can be played in very different roles.
So even though they have the Celeste, do you think it's going to be the Idris going into the mid lane?
Perhaps. Celeste could be
There's a lot of options for that.
It is a lot of options. I have actually seen Tribe running a bit of Celeste jungle, which would be a little bit different. As far as who plays what, it's just going to come down to comfort picks. School's very comfortable on both Celeste and Idris.
And the Grace going to come through as well. Another new hero for us today, but we've seen what Grace can do. It's a little more risky, I think, to play Grace in 5v5 than it was in 3v3 because you only have one target at a time that you can throw that heal onto. But again, it's all about that crowd control. It's about the anti-engage that Grace can offer. You know, when Kroll goes running in, especially now Rona getting picked too, a little surprised to see the Rona picked into the Grace. But if those two go in on a target, Grace puts down a Holy Nova. If she stuns up both of them, they're going to be in a world of hurt.
With Max and Gabe kind of flexing back and forth between captain and top lane, I think that they're going to tend to gravitate towards a lot of the captain heroes that can be played in the top lane. One thing that we've seen a little bit of in 5 versus 5 is weapon power Grace in the top lane. She grabs a Sorrow Blade, she grabs a couple of monocles, she uses her A to go in, and it is just a ton of burst damage, and that is something that Hammers potentially could have to watch out for, especially because it would be considered a comfort pick for both Max and Gabe.
And you look at the composition they have, there's a lot of burst damage there. With a Idris, Chakram, Celeste, Helios, you throw in, you get that poke damage with the range that you have, and then once a target gets a little bit low, Grace goes in and finishes people off, essentially, with that benediction. So there's definitely a lot of burst, and the Koshka to come out as well. Just, this is all about burst on the side of Tribe. This is what we've talked about, where you need to have that composition, a win condition. Their win condition is picking a target and deleting them.
Absolutely, yeah. Whoever's on Samuel, I feel bad for you already. You are definitely going to be a focal point for the side of Tribe. Oof. They're going to try and utilize a lot of resources onto the Sam with all of that burst damage. And if he steps out of position just for a second, see you later.
Yeah, I like the Batiste pick here to round it up. They needed something to help protect that Samuel. Obviously, you can peel a bit with the Kroll. You can peel a little bit with the Rona if you get like a Shiver Steal onto her, although that's not really super common. But then grabbing that Batiste, just having a little bit more crowd control in order to try and keep your carry safe was absolutely necessary.
So now that we have our final selections and we've talked about the individual heroes a bit, how do you think about the team composition or lack of composition that has gone together into this matchup?
Tace did a great job explaining that Tribe's composition all going to be about picking out a target and absolutely deleting it. Hammers is going to have to figure out a way to be able to combat that. I really like the Batiste there as their last pick. Great counter to Koshka every time. She's so mobile. If you can drop that Ordained on her, that's going to do wonders as far as shutting her down.
And not only that, but their composition has a lot of AoE. Between the Churnwalker, the Samuel, and the Batiste, if you get an empowered Bad Mojo off onto a target that's also getting hit, you know, if in a full team fight with empowered Malice and Verdicts, and everyone is chained up, you're just going to be deleting the entire enemy team. You say, you know what, you guys can pick one target, we'll just take all 5 of you at the same time. So there is a lot of AoE potential on the side of Hammers Esports.
So if, say for example, I had a 5-player team that was going up against a team that was all burst, all AoE, and they were probably going to try in and come and delete me, how do I delete them first? I
think itemization is one of the big ways you can go about it. You look to a lot of defensive items, especially the health defensive items. I think the item that I just completely drew a blank on, the
Husk.
Slumbering Husk. That is a brilliant item for countering the burst because it gives you that big chunk of fortified health. And if you negate that initial burst out of a burst composition, there's a long period of time before they can do that again, and it gives you a window of opportunity to then turn the fight back around.
Brilliant. Write that down. And here's another question. How would you deal with that if you're on the bursting team?
Bursting team, you have to make sure you're paying attention to some of those item cooldowns. So if they can go in, trigger the Husk, and once they know that it's off cooldown, they can just regroup, reset, and then go on to that same target, and then the item is basically useless.
Brilliant. And so for a team that would be going in with a high offense, what kind of items would they want?
I mean, you want to get that pierce so that if they start building armor or shielding, you can burst right through that. And a lot of it's just focusing on just getting your damage items out, get the reflex blocks so that you can go in, get that big burst, pop the Slumbering Husks, and then still get out of the fight. If you don't have those reflex blocks up, you'll go in, you'll pop the Slumbering Husks, and then you're going to get stunned and killed and caught out. So
which hero going into this match do the viewers need to keep an eye on for that massive amount of damage that's going to come out?
So, like Tasty mentioned, if Batiste is able to pick up some really big bad mojos, that's going to hurt a lot, especially if Churnwalker has him chained up. That being said, we have not seen any crystal-powered Batiste yet today. So if that is something that Hammers decides to pull out for the first time, Tribe's going to have to be really careful about it. Otherwise, if it's just weapon, it's not going to be as effective.
Well, let's see what weapons they actually do get, because we're going into the game right now.
all right, here we go. Game number 2 of North America. It's Tribe. Our first look at Tribe here in the VPL. One of the most hyped up teams coming into this preseason, taking on Hammers Esports. Dragonborn about to get underway. You see again a little skirmish over those tree ants. We're going to see that pretty much every game.
Yeah, this engagement early, always fun to see. Of course, always great to be here, Tasty, as we are here live in Las Vegas for the very first official Vainglory action of the year. It is just preseason, though. You know, we're starting off small, but I am excited to see where we get going here, both on the rise as well as just here in general at Vegas.
I mean, as much as we say it's just preseason, if you follow any of these players on Twitter, this is so much more than preseason. Than they, we talk about, oh, preseason is a chance for you to, work out your compositions, find out what works. That's not how these players are treating it. I don't think I've seen a single person on Twitter say, oh, it's just preseason, we're going to be figuring out what works. No, these players are looking to go all in and show that they are the team to beat.
Again, another contention down here by the weapon buff.
Hammer's going to be actually able to steal that one away, it looks like.
If
they can get everyone out. They were just fought for that healing treant, but that's going to be a first blood actually picked up by Tribe as they make the full team rotation. Dienzio in some trouble, but they find a second and a third kill. Tribe using their level 1 advantages, that burst of damage they have. You don't want to fight a burst team at level 1 because they will win 90% of the time.
No, absolutely. That was a risky play here. Good job actually just by Tribe to make that rotation. I mean, that's what we talk about, and we will be talking about. Exhausting is how important it is to respond to an engagement. You can see it, you see your team getting damaged. Don't just let them die off, right? Just don't let them lose their jungle or their lane. Try to go down the rotate. Tribe, great heads up to make that rotation coming down.
Yeah, and I don't want to blame Hammers for that because there was a good initial push in by Hammers. They just stuck around a little bit too long. They allowed Tribe to make that rotation, and once that rotation happened, that was when Hammers had to just cut their losses, say, all right, we got the healing treant, let's just get out of dodge and not lose anything. But instead, they stuck around a little too long, and now Dienzio with a good amount of damage already built up. You see tons of crystal bits to get that heroic perk, and they find the first kill. T-Tigers on this Koshka. We mentioned T-Tigers was going to be a sub. They brought him in here today for this first game, and he is already making plays.
Just casually strolling down the jungle, picking up 2 kills right off the bat there. That's something you have to watch out. Koshka still is famous for that early game presence. The late game, I don't think really know. It's just a lot of uncertainty about how you play some of those burst heroes into late game that I think we'll see the pros kind of figure out and develop for us going throughout the preseason and into the regular season. But nice early start, 5-0 for Tribe.
I think the initial plan is you don't go into the late game with these burst heroes. You just win the game before you even get there. And that's what T-Tigers is going to be able to do with this costume. If they can find these advantages throughout the early game, they're going to build up such a large lead for themselves that it won't go to the late game. So you see already going in for more invades, looking for man rotation. Again, Dienzio moves up from the bottom lane for this rotation to get the crystal treant and then immediately goes back down to the lane. They are not pulling any punches when they make these rotations.
Yeah, it's such a good rotation. It's leaving Cruel nothing. Cruel rotates into the enemy jungle to see if he can take any farm. There's nothing to take. T-Tigers had cleared that out just moments before. So again, constant ways of denying the enemy team the ability to find gold, to take gold away from you.
And the way they set that up was T-Tigers cleared out the jungle, went to the bottom lane, helped Dienzio push up that bottom lane of minions so that then Dienzio could make that rotation up with him without losing any CS himself. And then, of course, use that reverse movement speed buff to get back down into the lane for Dienzio. So they take just about everything possible and leave nothing for Hammers, and they don't lose anything themselves as a result of it. So again, that's the kind of rotations that we're going to have to start seeing from really everyone if you're going to want to keep up.
Yeah, so important if you can always, especially if you can steal away the Crystal Orb. You take that away as well as a Treant from the enemy side of the jungle, you're already positioning yourself in for a good space of gold, a decent amount of CS and gold lead for the next few minutes. We are seeing that dual mid lane support. The captain seems to basically live in the mid lane with the carry.
Also, we are seeing what FlashX was talking about on the desk, where Gabe Vizzle is playing the captain role, while Max Green is playing in that solo laner, playing the Grace, who is known as a captain, but can very easily make that move into the lane by building her with the weapon power. So, just as FlashX was talking about, Tribe is doing it right here before us.
Dienzio definitely likely on this Idris, building just pure CP. He builds 5 CP crystal bits just right out the gate, just saying, hey, I'm building straight crystals, so I'm okay just stacking crystal items on and filling out my inventory.
Well, it's also done so that it's the cheapest way and quickest way to get yourself into that heroic perk, which you really need on the Crystal Idris to be effective. Otherwise, you're stuck trying to be in melee. You're not getting the extra damage on your basic attack. So it's the way to go. If you're going to be playing the Crystal Idris, you just load up on crystal bits and get that perk online as early as possible. And we saw what Dienzio was able to do. As soon as he got that perk, they immediately found a kill off of it. And now they're up 6-0 as a result of these movements that they're making. And you see it going deep. They're at the tier 3 turret. Tribe is in the bottom lane already. It's just so much pressure that Dienzio and T-Tigers are putting out because of the amount of burst they have. They know that they can just safely make these plays.
Solar Storm Stripe coming in just to help finish off that turret. And T-Tigers, his rotation's been bottom heavy, but it's worked out perfectly for them. They've been able to put so much pressure, and Grace, Max Green just really denying almost any ability for top lane to find
does get caught out there, but I don't think Tribe's going to be too upset about that. First kill for Hammers, as you mentioned, and so not really going to be the end of the world. Just a misstep in the rotation from Old School there as he was trying to move over and help out the rest of his team a bit. But they have 2 turrets now destroyed in the bottom lane. Standing solo again, looking for anything. His entire jungle has been constantly getting stolen away, and there's nothing in the enemy jungle for him either. He's going to be falling very far behind on this Kroll, and we all know what happens to a Kroll that gets far behind. It is so difficult to have any sort of impact.
Yeah, when you look at the side of Hammers, their lineup, it's not a lineup that can get behind and still win team fights. It is one that, you need, unless you go long in the fight, which that's the challenge. The burst that's coming out of Tribe, at least early on, is not going to let these team fights go very late. So Hammers, they need to find a way. One of the ways I think they could do that is they need to learn how to turtle in 5v5. It's, I think, one of the biggest challenges pros have had is right here at the top, right?
Boy, he's going to get caught up, stunned up by the Yummy Catnip Frenzy and taken down. Gets the heal from Max Green, and they just immediately go right back underneath the turret. And can you see how quickly they're melting? That's going to be Girls on Boys standing solo, taking out the 1 turret there. But again, it's getting traded on the other side of the map. So it's not really an advantage that they're able to find there. It's just going even, which when you're behind, going even is great. However, you have to make sure that you don't continue to fall further behind, because those 2 are going to keep pushing top. And now they found standing solo. He's going to be going down here eventually. Dienzio finding that kill. And with that push still going on in top, this is now going to be Tribe finding an advantage.
Tribe looking to at least push. They might have chewed off too much. Max Green, he's got caught up here, so I think he's just going to sacrifice himself for a few moments. Yeah, he's going to go down to another kill. This does, though, allow Ghostwing to be going over to Tribe, as we can see right there down on the minimap. Tribe has secured it, and that's a big buff for them at the 8-minute mark.
And that's something that the top-tier teams are going to be doing is if you give up something on one side of the map, always be getting something else across the other side. They lose a turret in bottom, but they take a turret up top. They lose a kill up top, but they take a Ghostwing down bottom. They are constantly just finding an advantage. Anytime that they give their opponents anything, they're looking for something else for them to take. Gabe Vizzle whiffs a little bit with that bada bing. Would have been nice to grab standing solo, pick him off, find themselves a kill, but it still pushed him away, allowed them to take that Crystal Orb once again. That Crystal Orb has pretty much belonged to Tribe all game long.
Yeah, it's gone every single time. From the very first minute of the game, we've seen Koshka Koshka's great at clearing out the jungle and then rotating in. So it's something you just have to be mindful of the enemy team to, like, you got to counter it somehow.
So much damage roaming out from Tribe is Youngjae just going to be melting through. Does get a bit of healing thanks to his sustain and the healing flask. But the turret, you can't heal the turret. That's going to be going down. Now they're looking to target Eliminate. He is going to be trying to just kite away from Hell's Heart. Does connect onto Gabe Vizzle, but that's not a target they're going to be able to do anything with. So again, another turret taken by Tribe, and they should be able to get out here. DNCO in a little bit of trouble, but he wants to go aggressive. Gets the fountain out of Gabe Vizzle. And now they're just going to be able to continue pushing. Here's that push that happened top, just continuing to put pressure on. They're in the enemy base now. Tribe just absolutely tearing through hammers at this point.
Goodness. That
middle turret is going to fall. The fight is on. That's Yumikat and Frenzy going to be locking up Shaded Talent, and he's going to, or sorry, not Shaded Talent. He's going to be going down, standing solo, and they're continuing to push on. Eliminate the next target. Eliminate is going to fall. 3 kills picked up. The first Armory getting targeted already. We are only 10 minutes in, Dragonborn.
Yeah, and that's a mid lane push. Now, the only downside to pushing so aggressively mid lane is if things start to turn around, but you get a Black Claw, there's not as many objectives to take. But
it just gets right onto the crystal, though.
It takes some time, though. No, it takes some time. So you've got to make sure you secure it and then push with it. You know, so, but it's not like Tribe hasn't been clearing off the side lanes. I mean, those top and bottom lanes are almost gone as well. You've got 1 turret apiece there. So they're doing just fine. I mean, they're looking to, they probably don't even need to get the Black Claw.
Yeah, and look at the gold lead right now, 10,000 gold at about 11 minutes. That is a massive disparity. I don't think we've seen a gold lead that large yet today. So Tribe absolutely living up to the expectations here in their first showing in the preseason.
Yeah, and they're just behind in items too. So the gold translates into the items. You know, Stanksoul only with the offensive tension bow. Youngjae, he's only got a Dragon's Heart. Dragon's Eye. So, you know, already, just every time a team fight breaks out, they're at a disadvantage. They just have to find a way to slow the game. We've talked about turtling in 5v5. It's pretty new.
Very difficult.
Very difficult, very challenging, very new, though, to a lot of these players and how they're going to accomplish it. And another Ghost Wing capture looks like it's going to be going over. Yeah, honestly, it could be soloed at this point. They don't even need to worry.
And T-Tigers in a little bit of trouble up in the top side of the map. But again, making sure that they get some. They brought a few people up top to try and contest T-Tigers. He doesn't even go down here, and they still get that Ghost Wing. So again, advantages across the board for Tribe. Now T-Tigers, he's going to get spotted out here, but I think Hammers, they just want to get the turret.
They want the turret, but they leave the mid open, and you can see, look how fast they've pushed down.
And T-Tigers just going to be delaying these recalls. That's 2 members that he's got. If he can just keep them alone in mid, this is going to open up the door. They've got to kill in the base. They finally take down T-Tigers, but it's now a 4-on-4 situation, and Tribe are just so far ahead. You can see that Vein Crystal starting to take some damage. It's still pretty durable with 2 armories up. Here comes some turnaround damage from Youngjae on this Samuel. Heal's going to come through from the Grace to keep everyone in fighting shape. And Tribe realized, okay, maybe that was a little too aggressive, a little too early to try and finish this game off. We're just going to back out, clear out everything along the way. Probably just look to push one of these 2 side lanes, take another armory down. Because, again, if you aren't aware, the Vein Crystal is more durable the more armories are up. So while with 2 armories up, it still takes quite a bit of damage to actually burn through that Vein Crystal.
It does. T-Tigers picking up the Spellfire, an item we don't see come out too often on these crystal carries, but one that we've heard a lot of people talk about how the potential of that item, the amount of damage it does.
Standing solo, getting caught. Sorry to cut you off there, but he's going to be able to get out. So go ahead and continue a Spellfire discussion. We've seen, like you mentioned, a few people really big on the item.
It's a very powerful item, and it's gotten several buffs over the last couple of updates, but an item that we just don't see players very comfortable with using. Again, taking a lot of your crystal damage and just delaying it over a time period.
Heart, not connecting. Would have been blocked even if it did connect. Solar Storm goes a bit wide too. Now they're going to be looking to push in onto this bottom turret. They have Koshka pushing top lane as well. So again, splitting Hammers, forcing them to make a decision of where they want to put their attention. You can see a lot of damage going on to Young Jae. He's going to be in having to recall. Does get out safely, so that's at least you know, some promising news there. T-Tiger's in some trouble. He takes the turret down, though, so almost willing to sacrifice himself. But then Gabe Vizzle shows up and says, you know what? You're going to get out alive. If he tried to chase, there would have just been a fountain. But their kill does get picked up onto Old School, as the numbers game kind of catching up to Tribe, getting caught out there 4-on-3. Hammer's able to find that one kill. Now Gabe Vizzle still extremely durable. You can see Max Green thinking about trying to go in as well. He has that the Divine Intervention to throw on to Gabe Vizzle if he can get in range, but he's just going to Gabe Vizzle use that escape with the ultimate. And should be able to get out underneath this turret. Now the rest of the team can collapse. This is way too deep for Hammers, committing too hard to trying to find that kill. They've lost one. Girls on Boys is going to go down as well. It's 2 kills picked up. Young Jae on the backside will get met by a Grace. Here comes a Solar Storm. It clips a little bit, but it doesn't even necessary, as it's another couple of kills and an ace coming through for Tribe, and that should do it.
That was an incredibly strong performance by Tribe. We've talked about how they are coming into the season one of the top teams in the league, and they are showing it right here. And, you know, 15-minute game, but honestly, they had dominated that. It was all just about over at the 10-minute mark.
Yeah, this was all Tribe from the start, really. They got off to a great beginning to this game. Went up 5 or 6 kills right off the bat, and just never looked back from there. There was a couple times where Hammers, you know, got a pick onto one target, but every single time it felt like they got a kill, they were giving up something else on the other side of the map, and that's credit to Tribe and their shot calling, their decision making to go through and, you know, force those opportunities. Say, okay, here, look, there's a nice juicy Koshka in the top lane. While you guys put focus onto her, we're going to take the Ghost Wing. We're going to take some turrets. A really good split pushing mentality.
Yeah, the aggression kind of came through a little bit. How did you feel when you watched that happen?
That was exactly what we talked about in the pregame, just how deep the Tribe roster was. I Love Joseph, who's supposed to be on that starting roster, wasn't even here. T-Tigers jumped in for him, absolutely went bananas on that Koshka at 9-1. Pretty insane, and definitely making quick work of Hammers Esports.
Bacon, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we expect out of Tribe.
Yeah.
When you look at this team, you look at the names on it, you expect them to come in and dominate. You don't expect them to be facing too many difficulties, and that's exactly what we just got. This is what we expected out of Tribe, and I think it's just kind of almost business as usual for them.
I think so. Apparently, it sounds like it. Well, Flash, I would love to revisit your moment of the game, the pivotal point, if you will.
Yeah, let's do it. It's right at about the 10-minute mark. T-Tigers on this Koshka, going absolutely insane. Into the enemy base, absolutely no fear, taking down Young Jae. Underneath 2 turrets, having the Vein Crystal fight back as it does now in the Sovereign's Rise. And this is really where Tribe opened up the game. They took down that first turret, they picked up a bunch of kills, and the first armory going down at just 10 minutes into the game really set the tempo and the momentum for them to really just execute very cleanly and close this game out within the next 5 minutes.
That was incredibly snappy. So let's move on to our final match of the day. Rogue takes on Nova Esports. What can we expect in the final of the North American match of the day, guys?
I mean, this is one of those matchups that is a bit more of a toss-up, I think. It's the 2 teams that were fairly evenly matched. Obviously, we saw Rogue put on some amazing performances last year, but some roster changes. Obviously, with 5v5 coming through, every team had some sort of change to the roster. And this is now one where both of these teams are fielding a roster that could definitely go toe-to-toe with each other, and it should be a really exciting one at the very least.
I think it will be, Flash.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that I think is noteworthy in this matchup is you actually have Evol doing the same thing similar to Gabe, and he is exploring transitioning from the captain position into the mid lane. Very new to it. I think he announced it on Twitter sometime last week, maybe the week before, but his experience in this role is going to be very limited, but he absolutely has the foundation in terms of his mechanics to be very dominant in this position in the future, if that's something he does continue with.
Absolutely. All right, Tasty, who do we need to keep an eye on this match?
Oh, I think for this one, it's going to be pretty much just as FlashX was saying. We have to focus on Evol because of that transition. He made a name for himself last year as a captain, and we started being put into those conversations with the best captains in the game. And now if he's going to be making this transition over to the mid lane, how is that going to work for him? Is he going to be comfortable with it, playing at the top level? You know, how long will that transition take? Will he stick with it? We saw Gabe Vizzle was just playing in the captain role, so he may be going back to the captain role. Is that going to happen with Evol as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Evol definitely one of the most dedicated players I know. He really puts 100% into everything that he does, and if he does stick with this mid lane position, I fully expect great things out of him in the future. They might not be there right away, but it's definitely a growing experience, as it is for all teams figuring out 5v5.
Of course, it's new for all of us. Flash, who do we need to keep an eye on in Rogue?
Definitely some options as far as Nova goes. We want to be looking at their entire roster. Starting all over, however, formerly with Hammers, now a part of Nova, has phenomenal synergy with Truth of Light, but Starting has always been a very dominant, mechanically skilled player. If he can find the discipline that he needs as he grows older, he puts in the practice, he puts in the work, he is open and receptive to the feedback of his coaches and his teammates, that he has a great foundation for blossoming in 5v5.
And it's another reason that I think we really need to watch him is, you know, we saw on Twitter he was off of Nova at one point and then got brought back onto the team. So, you know, we'll have to keep an eye on that. You know, is the synergy going to be there? Are the teammates going to get along? Because that is so crucial in 5v5. And it's been so crucial for Starting all over in the past when he was on Hammers Esports. You know, when he had teammates that he got along with, that he synergized with, they were one of the dominant teams in Vainglory. Once that changed, you know, the roster changed up or the team started having internal issues, they started to slip down towards the bottom of the standings. So, so much is riding on his shoulders with this team, but so much of it is about the team around him as well and how much they can gel and mesh as a unit.
Absolutely. So now if you missed any of the action from earlier in the day, let's catch you up on what happened earlier in the Europe.
Well, we were
just 1 second. The highlights were too good. We need to hold on for a second. We need to calm down. Now,
there was action in Europe. There was a lot of action.
There was so much.
It wasn't that nothing happened in Europe. It was just shown. But there was a lot of action in Europe. It was our first look at 5v5. It was really exciting, and I think we were all very surprised at what Europe brought to the table. Definitely looking forward to what they continue to bring. Make sure you go back and check out the VODs.
I think we got a little bit we get to see right now, actually, if you want.
We got them up.
Let's get a little bit going.
Boom, there we go. All right, Clash taking down Team Queso in the first match of the day. Great stuff out of them. A little bit of an upset, definitely a roster that we're going to want to pay close attention to. Equinox, the newest team in Europe, taking down Wolves Esport, another new team, proving that they absolutely deserve to be a part of the VPL. And then finally, Salty Potatoes finding victory with their crowd control composition and completely shutting down the enemy team.
All right, now it is time for our final draft of the day between Rogue and Nova Esports. Let's do this.
There we go. We got the first two bans already in. It is the Kestrel and the Tonka, so Celeste and Krull getting left through. We have seen this a lot more than I would have thought. I mean, happening once was a lot more than I would have thought already, but to see these heroes getting left through a lot, it kind of shows that the teams are, you know, thinking of different priorities or thinking that they can deal with the Krull pick and the Celeste pick.
Absolutely. It seems like there's a pretty diverse meta going on across North America as a whole. The Kestrel ban from Rogue was nothing but a respect ban. Both Starting Over and Truth of Light are two of the best, if not the single two best Kestrel players in North America, perhaps even the world. They don't want to see either of them on that pick, and the best way to deal with that, just get rid of it, take Celeste, dominate the range game. But Nova gonna answer with both the Rona and the Krull, who are very good at getting on top of Celeste.
Very good at getting on top of Celeste and very durable, both of these two heroes. We did see, however, Hammers try to run a composition with both the Krull and the Rona. It didn't really work out that well because that is a lot of resources you have to dedicate to both of them. They're both extremely item dependent, and they need to get a lot of items under their belt before they really, you know, have the level of impact in the late game. Obviously, early on, Krull can make an impact if he's in the jungle with just a tension bow, but once you get a little bit later on, if you don't have 3-4 items on both of those heroes, they're not going to be able to have the same impact you would expect from 3v3.
Absolutely. Another Tony pick. I absolutely love the fact that we're getting so much gameplay out of the new heroes. Kind of seems like in the past, heroes have always been broken beyond belief and they're permanently banned, or they're super underwhelming. Tony seems like he's in a really good spot right now, especially given this new triple ban draft system that leaves a lot of room and a lot of opportunity for these teams to be picking him up. We've only seen him played in the captain role today. I would absolutely love to see him played as a laner. The amount of weapon power damage he can do in burst increments is absolutely nuts. And hopefully we'll be able to see a little bit out of that. I think Rogue has some more intricate hero pools to the extent that they like to play things that are a little bit off meta. Nova still sticking very much with my understanding of the meta. They pick up the Fortress, and Rogue answers with the Sky.
Yeah, we've seen a Sky pick earlier that did very well with the slows coming out from the Frostburn. If you go Weapon Sky, you're going to have those same forward barrage slows. If you go for the Crystal, you can build that Frostburn and get those slows as well. So a lot of utility can be brought from the Sky. She's very good at taking turrets as well, and that's one of the big strengths of her, is being able to just move around team fights, position extremely well, and the turret focus is massive. But there's going to be another Churnwalker, so with Churnwalker on the fold and Tony there, looks like you might be getting your wish.
Yeah, absolutely. Churnwalker, definitely one of Evol's best heroes. Now, I don't expect to see him on it today. I still think he's going to be probably playing Celeste in that mid lane. But Churnwalker wasn't quite as successful as we had hoped in that last game, despite all of the AoE damage. Perhaps Rogue's going to have some better luck with it.
Yeah, and it's definitely, again, it's if you have the right playmaker on that Churnwalker, you can just demolish teams. We saw at the World Championship, even though that was 3v3, we saw what Max Green was able to do with that hero, constantly just setting up these huge stuns. Now you can multiply those stuns by 5 instead of just by 3. So there is definitely a massive potential to set up team fights for your squad, but it requires so much teamwork and coordination. Your shot calling has to be on point.
Absolutely. Nova picking up the Reza. Again, a great tool that a lot of teams are utilizing here today to try and get on top of the Celeste, who's going to be playing in the backline. I fully expect to see Lone Delphi playing that. He's a very good Reza, and with how much burst damage Reza has, it's something that Evol, if he's on the Celeste, is absolutely going to have to watch out for.
Ooh, a glaive coming through. When 5v5 first came out, when there was the first people starting to be able to play in the beta for it, before even early access, Glaive was the one hero everyone was talking about, saying Glaive was obscenely strong on 5v5. And obviously there was a couple of changes made to kind of bring him down a little bit so he's not as dominant. But the ability to go over virtually any wall on the map, the split pushing ability, the ability to just 1v1 targets is massive for this hero.
Definitely exceptional ganker. No laner is safe when Glaive is on the board. It's another new pick that we've seen here today, and definitely if Rogue is able to execute that as it's meant to be executed, that could give them a huge advantage in the early game up against Nova.
And another new pick for us today was the Adagio as the final pick to round out the composition. So there's a lot of new picks being brought out in North America. I think a lot more variety in the picks for North America, which kind of speaks to what you were saying before of, there isn't really a consensus of what's best to run here in North America, whereas Europe seemed a lot more defined. They seemed to have, all the teams kind of knew what they wanted to run, and it was all very similar.
And that worked out for some teams, and it didn't work out for others. So I guess we'll have to see what happens in this one. Well, now that we have our selections, I know you've already talked about the heroes a little bit, but is there anything that's jumping out to you, a potential strategy that might come into play, or a play style that's going to be used by one of these teams?
It's got to be the fact that Rogue, we haven't really seen this roster compete in a very long time. They've brought back a lot of former veteran players who can be very good and very strong, as well as some new faces as well. I believe this is Louis Vuitton's debut performance in the Vainglory 8. Super excited to see what he is able to bring to the table and if he's going to be able to keep up with some of these other pro players.
It better be fabulous with a name like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype around Louis, so there are a lot of teams were actually trying to get him. There were a lot of teams were looking at him to potentially add to their roster. So there was definitely some hype around him, and getting to see will he live up to that hype is going to be really fun for sure.
If you had to have a guess how this game's going to go, this particular matchup is going to go, who do you think is going to come out on top?
I'm going to have to go with the side of Nova Esports. I think Truth of Light and Starting All Over, they're essentially best friends in the Vainglory community. This is the first time that they've ever been on the same team together, and hopefully they've always been so mechanically skilled. If they can push each other as individuals and keep each other as individuals very motivated and disciplined, I fully expect them to do big things in 5v5.
How about you, Bacon?
I'm actually really liking the composition that Rogue has. I think there's a ton of burst potential. If they end up running this as a weapon Tony and potentially even a weapon Glaive, you can just get into lanes, gank them so effectively. There's nothing that a laner is going to be able to do. If a Glaive afterburns you into a Tony taunt, you are not escaping whatsoever. So
well, let's
there's
see
a
if
lot
that
of potential
happens.
for those
I am
combos.
so excited. We are going to jump into the game right now. Let's see if that gank happens. Let's see if that strategy happens.
All right, here we go. Final game of the day. And it is Rogue taking on Nova Esports. Dragonborn with me once again as we get things underway. A little bit of a different start to this game as everyone is in the mid lane instead of fighting over those treants.
Yeah, all pushed up here, all up in front here. Tasty, the final game. It has been a long day for you, sir, as you have been literally non-stop guiding us through every phase of the streams. Thank you so much for that.
There's a big skirmish happening right now. Eco and Starting All Over, both going to be going pretty low. That forward barrage nearly taking Starting All Over out. Not quite going to be enough damage there, but as they back away. Now you see Nova took advantage of the fact that all of Rogue were showing and went and stole some of the jungle away, but Rogue is now answering. They have a couple members in 3 quadrants of the jungle now as they try and make sure that they get the upper hand from this early trade.
Yeah, pretty even trade here. Like the gold's still neck and neck, so not a big difference here. That Jesus on the Sky. Wow, you know, Sky is doing a lot of early game damage. Not necessarily famous for being the strongest early game hero, but that forward barrage, if you take so much of it right up in front like that, you saw Starting All Over almost dropped. They almost got first blood, which has been a very pivotal, I think, a turning point for this. Really allowed Rogue even more flexibility as we get through some of these rotations here early. But in the top lane, that's where we'll typically see the Sky play, and I really think that this Rona has his work cut out for him. I mean, Rona has to make sure he just kind of dodges around, like you see Truth doing also well right now.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where it can be so difficult to lane against the Sky because you can be perfect in your position.
Really
you can be moving around constantly, but if you just slip up once, all of a sudden you're getting half of a forward barrage to the face and getting dropped to about a quarter health. So it's definitely a situation that can be difficult to play into. As you see right there, Truth getting dropped so low just from making the decision to go aggressive just once after he had been playing so well for the first couple minutes there of avoiding that damage.
Yeah, which he kind of was trying to do to help keep him, deny him some of the farm he was getting in the lane, push him away.
Well, that's a lot of damage on the Starting. He's going to be the target here. Interesting to see that they're using this Adagio in the mid lane. That's one of the picks that we haven't really talked about. We talked about the mid laners were going to be the Varia, the Scarf, the Samuel, and we didn't really talk about the fact that there still are other picks that can play in that mid lane, and Starting All Over showing us one of those right now.
Yeah, Rogue off to a pretty good start. They were winning the CS in the top and mid lane. The bot lane, though, a little bit closer as you start to see Reza starting to come online here, evening it up.
In a lot of trouble. Sibs making this rotation up top.
He's got this.
Yeah, Truth's going to very likely go down here. The movement speed buff on the target lock is going to allow that first blood to come through just barely, though.
Just barely. He almost got away.
Yeah, that into the fray was in midair when he fell. But now Sibs could be getting chased down here by the Krull, and that's going to be a lot of damage. Sibs trying to use that taunt, trying to get that extra barrier. Is it going to be enough? The one more Spectral Smite will do it. Actually, it's going to get stolen away by Eco, jumping in at the last minute and grabbing himself a kill. So not really probably the best of situations, but it does get the gold onto at least 2 members instead of just on 1.
Right, first kill for Nova. It's already been a pretty close game, but those 2 quick kills for Rogue you have to be careful. First Blood does still give you that gold buff, gives you a little bit extra gold, and of course kills do matter in the sense they give you gold, but they also give you positioning. So you do want to keep things traded evenly for most of this game. The mid, though, I'm really concerned about starting all over. I mean, the Adagio facing up against the Celeste, it hasn't looked too great so far, and it's just like through the whole phase of this game, it's going to be a challenge that he's going to have to manage. I'm really excited to see the Adagio, though, in team fights. That's where we're going to see starting all over shine, when you start talking about the buff and that massive ultimate in those big lumped-up fights.
Yeah, and not only that, but once he starts getting some items out, big engage, that's the tension bow proc onto Evol, eating a ton of damage. Solar Storm not quite going to go where he was hoping to, where he thought the fight was going to rotate.
I think he thought Rona was going to rotate around the bot side.
He was definitely expecting the fight
lane
to rotate a different direction, but doesn't quite work out for him. Still managed to stay alive, though. That was a massive burst of damage coming out from the Kroll, and now looks like starting all over, rotating up top, helping out Truth. They find the kill. Excellent rotation from starting all over to get up there and make that happen.
That final auto attack, that's where Adagio is going to be so good. And of course, starting all over as a stutter stepping master. This guy could literally just mechanically outplay almost everybody on the rise. And that's something you'll be really scary to see here. 3v3 could
another skirmish going on. It's going to be a lot of damage done onto Delphi, but he gets the heal thanks to the Spectral Smite. Not quite going to be enough. There's Louis Vuitton jumping in with that afterburn, able to find a kill. He's going to clear out a couple of those minions, make life a little bit more difficult for the members of Nova. But when they start to rotate away, I feel like they should really put pressure on, though. They have Eric Kane and Eco both very low. That's what they're going to try and do. The taunt doesn't quite hit, but an afterburn will get Louis in, taking a lot of damage from the turret, but they find the kill, and they're going to just back away happy with that for now.
Yeah, good push on the bot lane there, but of course leaving the top completely exposed. So Rona was able to rotate down and help out the mid. That Glaive, you know, almost didn't get that one kill on Eco, missed his afterburn at first, and then did follow up. I mean, just super aggressive play by Louis Vuitton Don. That's a name, you know what, we haven't talked a lot about him. A new player in the competitive scene, but this guy has been, he rose to the highest tier in Vainglory very quickly in 3v3, and then immediately just absolutely a monster in 5v5.
Get taunted, uses the Netherform detonation, knowing that the afterburn was coming right on his heels, so excellent heads-up play there by Eric Kane in order to avoid going down and getting caught in a bad position. Now all of Nova is rotating over as the Ghost Wing spawns. I love seeing teams make these rotations down, you know, just to be there when an objective is present on the fold so that they can contest it immediately, maybe even try and take it. This is spotted by that scout cam for the side of Rogue. But are they going to try and make a rotation over? They know it's going down pretty slowly. Now here comes the rotation so that they can try and fight for this at the end. Some chains going out from the Churnwalker. Going to try and get a couple of members of Nova locked up.
Really
here
risky.
comes
Ghost Wing.
Ghost Wing does get secured by the it was actually the Spectral Smite that secured it, starting all over, throwing out a Verse of Judgment just in case someone tried to come in to steal it. They would have been getting caught up.
All right, well, this was going to allow Nova to reset their lanes, I think. I mean, you know, they're not looking to, it doesn't look like they're going to be pushing down like as a 4-man or anything. That's really the only thing we saw coming out of like an EU team, or in the case of Tribe, just dominating and pushing all those turrets down. But it's going to allow them to reset the lanes and push up a little bit. It looks like they might get this turret here.
They're going to pay for it, though. That's one kill onto Truth. Now they're having to run away. They don't actually get the turret taken down. However, they got to pay attention to the side lanes and see how much work they're able to make there. You do have Delphi up in the top lane, uncontested for now, but Skye is making her way over. Delphi should be able to take that turret down, will do so. Meanwhile, down bottom, Erica Kane going toe-to-toe with Louis Vuitton Don, and kind of going even there. Neither of them really able to get a lot of damage onto each other to stick. So good job again by Nova, just sort of resetting things a bit. But Evol and the rest of Rogue looking to put pressure onto mid. Evol's going to be the target, though, as he gets nice block on the taunt. He's taking so much damage. Great stun to keep himself safe. And look at how much health he still has. Throws a Solar Storm that doesn't quite connect, and it is a kill for Nova. And now they're going to continue chasing on, looking for a second. They take down the Churnwalker. Evol, last man standing here in this mid lane. Has a couple of low health bars on the opposite side, but can he find the kills? They're just going to go diving right on in. Tension Bow proc, chunking his health down so effectively. He's still alive, though, and that's all that matters.
Heal from starting all over kept him in that. It was really impressive. I'm surprised you didn't notice this. Happened like 30 seconds ago. The triple scout cam in the bush at the same time. Communication on vision, probably something we'll see develop as we go on through 5v5 through this preseason. Nice kill.
Yeah, that's just not really much that Sky could do there. A 3-on-1 situation. You're generally not going to be able to get away. Pushed up, tried to get a little bit of pressure onto the turret, but unfortunately just got caught out and taken down. And there's that triple scout cam you were talking about, Dragonborn. Yeah, definitely not an ideal situation.
Definitely not.
As Louis Vuitton, he's going to be caught out. He's not going to be able to get that kill. He wanted to try and take starting all over out, wanted to try and get that stun, but unsuccessful. Evol trying to help out his team kiting away, but it looks like it should be Nova taking another kill. Another form detonation will secure that one. Maybe a little excessive, but with starting all over and Eco both going low, want to just make sure they got that kill before things went on too much longer. And Nova currently up 7-5 in terms of the kills. They were down in gold early, but they have brought it back and now have themselves a 2,000 gold lead.
No, absolutely. Pushing in here. All 5 members of Nova are ready to just ram down this thing. They're going to get the turret, so the first mid turret here, and that's 2 turrets.
Deep. He's going to take a lot of damage from the second turret in the mid lane. And in fact, it's actually going to be Erica Kane that drops here. So all of a sudden, Rogue looking to maybe push up. Evol is low, but he's not going to be too concerned. He's actually done a really good job of surviving. Hasn't been, quite on point with some of his abilities. The Solar Storms have been going wide, but he has managed to keep himself alive in these fights, and that's going to allow him to scale up, get even more damage. Here comes the aggression from Delphi as they try and get in onto Evol. Again, Evol kiting beautifully with the rest of his team, and Louis Vuitton Don, a triple kill on the glaive. A beautiful fight from Rogue.
Absolutely. They caught starting all over on the Adagio out, started to put damage on him. He had to use his ultimate, the Verse of Judgment, but there was nobody around, right? So it was just there for the barrier. He eventually goes down with the Adagio out. That's a lot of DPS just taken away from Nova right off the bat, able to finish it off. And again, of course, you're talking about what Sibs can do and what Louis Vuitton can do. Just jumping into and engaging fights is really game-changing, and they made it right there.
It's also the AoE potential that can come out from the side of Rogue. Between a Celeste, a Sky, Glaive, and Churnwalker, you saw they just melted through the entirety of Nova all in one go. And that was, just, again, a beautiful fight as they now catch out a great afterburn. It's going to be the detonation, not going to be doing much at all other than delaying for a second or two the inevitable. And now Rogue, just like that, just almost like a snap of a finger,
it was
going so aggressive now. They win that team fight. They take the Ghost Wing. They're now into the base of Nova, taking down an armory. And Nova's going to try and fight this, but everyone on Rogue is just about full health. They're all grouped up. That's not what you want to do against the Churnwalker Celeste. They are just melting here, and Rogue find another kill. Now they're going to finally finish off this armory, back away as they know some other respawns are coming through, but so Rogue just dominating.
This whole time, starting all over, and I don't know if this is the right call because, you just allowed your team to lose an armory, but he's pushing up this turret, forcing a recall. I don't know if he's going to get the turret. It's very close. Not going to get an armory, and now he's actually really caught out. I think he's just going to take the death, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they did get the turret. The minions took the turret down. I don't disagree with that call. I don't think having starting all over in the base would have prevented the armory from going down in that situation. So getting as much as you can in return, it was still a 4-on-5 defense for the team. I have no problems with that decision. They at least get something out of that, whereas if starting all over's in the base, they don't likely turn that fight around. They don't likely prevent the armor from going, and they instead end up with nothing. So I like the decision there from Nova and starting all over to go and at least take
once he
something.
made the decision, commit to it, so he did, right? All right, I'm going to die. I'm just got to get that turret taken out here. And so committing to that decision was the right call. Thankfully, not losing the game here. And there was actually one point where he was going to recall, but as soon as they pushed back, as soon as that armory went down, he stayed. He realized he couldn't save the armory.
Yeah, so now Rogue looking to push up through the mid lane. You see Nova, Delphi especially, and Truth trying to come around the side, but they get spotted. That's the vision, how important vision is. If they're not spotted there, this could have gone very bad. But now the fight is breaking out. See a lot of damage on to Truth and Delphi. It's actually Erica Kane that ends up falling first. Great focus
Bada
from the
boom.
side of Rogue. A nice bada boom, but it's going to be Glaive picking up a couple more kills. Another triple kill for Louis Vuitton. They're going to chase some more. He's not going to get the quadra, but he's going to help secure the ace. And Rogue with another decisive team fight victory, 5 for 1. And now they can take down this mid turret. Very likely even get another armory if they really want to stick around. But it looks like they're going to back off, go for one of those dragons.
I think it's the right call here. I mean, it's still early on in the game. You have a composition that is going to continue to scale really well, and you've got the sizable lead. You've just expanded your gold lead up to about 5,000, and with this Ghost Wing buff, you can start talking about that Black Claw that's going to be coming out.
I was going to say, the timing of it as well. They're going to finish off this Ghost Claw, or this Ghost Wing, as the Black Claw is spawning. So
Absolutely.
They can immediately just rotate up to Black Claw with the buff, with that barrier, and try and take down another objective, or they just force another fight. They've been winning every single team fight decisively. Louis Vuitton has been amazing on this Glaive. A great KDA for him to start off this preseason thus far, and we'll see if they can get anything else here. As now Rogue in position, they're going to start up this Black Claw. This is a situation where they have vision control of the area. They don't even need to commit to this Black Claw. They can just force Nova to have to come and try and make an answer. That's exactly what it looks like they're trying to do. They're trying to just bait Nova over to force a team fight. You also are going to have those minions pushing into the base. You can see multiple members of Nova just had to recall to clear out those minions in their base. This is essentially going to be a free Black Claw unless a great steal comes through, but there's no vision in the pit for the side of Nova. They have no idea how low it is. Free Black Claw going over to Rogue, and with only the armory in mid, this is going to be an incredibly difficult defense.
Yeah, I mean, they had good surrounding vision. In fact, if anything, Rogue was a little weak on their vision around the pit. So, but I think they felt like they just had such good control of the lane. The lanes were all pushing that they didn't have to risk it. Like, it was really a fight that they were going to win.
Pushing, and they saw multiple members in the base defending against those minions. But now here we go. The Black Claw getting onto that armory. There's going to be a dive in there, but it's Delphi going extremely low. He's very durable, but the kiting backwards from Rogue is on point. Whoa. A great Solar Storm from Evil just rips through Nova, and this is going to be the game as they find 3 kills in the blink of an eye, and they push on through to the Vein Crystal. Rogue turning up the heat as they are looking to finish this game off. The Vein Crystal is falling, and Rogue will take the final game of our opening day of preseason action. A phenomenal performance from the side of Rogue. You know, there was very close, a very even matchup in the early game. But once that Ghost Wing fight happened, once Rogue got that first team fight victory, it was like they just flipped the switch and started just destroying the members of Nova.
That last ult got my heart pumping. Flash, how did you feel about it?
Evil, my man, looking super clean on that Celeste. 3-0-13. Stellar debut performance for him in the mid lane. I'm sure he's feeling really good about it.
I hope so.
And I'm sure we're going to be seeing some more of him in the future.
Yeah, early on, you know, some of those Solar Storms not really on point, not the way you want, but you know, I'm more than happy to chalk that up to jitters. First game jitters, first game playing in the mid lane jitters. You could see him get almost more confident as the game went on. Every time he narrowly escaped a fight, every time he narrowly got out with his life, it seemed like he was more confident going into the next one. So great to see that kind of progression from him. Very happy for him. He's obviously a very talented player. And the rest of Louis Vuitton Don, too. What a showing on this Glaive.
So intense. This day has been incredible, our first day of 5v5 competitive. So what would be your big takeaway from today?
Biggest takeaway, thing that surprised me the most, has got to be how aggressive Europe was. Seriously, a very different style from what we saw here in North America. Very calm and collected, but Clash, great demonstration right here. A little later on into the game, but absolutely no fear, going straight into Queso, not allowing them to kite at all whatsoever. And they fought from the beginning of their games until the very end. I'm sure if you tallied up all the kills, they would have much more than how many kills were seen in North America. Here are the results from Europe. Clash over Queso, Equinox over Wolves, Salty Potatoes over Rising Lotus. It's just best of ones. A lot of these teams, especially as we move into the regular season, going to be able to learn from each other and adapt, but great stuff here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, a lot of it was just how decisive a lot of these teams were. You know, we didn't see teams faltering around. We didn't see teams, you know, questioning their decisions. When they made a decision, they went all in on it. We didn't see any big comebacks. There was an almost comeback from the side of Tilt Rehab, but aside from that, every team that got a lead was able to play decisively and close it out. And you can see our North American results. Team Solo Mid did take down Tilt Rehab, Tribe taking out Hammers, and of course Rogue we just saw take down Nova Esports.
I mean, what a game to end
best of
with.
ones. You know, you don't want to write too much, look too much into this, but a lot of momentum for some of these teams going forward.
Yeah, that was a heck of a game to end with. So let's have a look up at the matchups for tomorrow because the fun is not over.
A lot of exciting stuff happening tomorrow. Slimy, Salamanders, and Vision Gaming we didn't get to see play today. That's a little bit of a battle between veterans and the new guys on the block. Hammers Esports taking on TSM, Tilt Rehab against Nova Esports. And starting off earlier in the day, we're going to have Team Queso against Rising Lotus in Europe, Equinox Esports against Salty Potatoes. Both of those teams looked immaculate. Their gameplay was phenomenal. I'll be very interested to see how those two teams stack up against each other. And it's going to be Clash against Wolf Esports at the end of the day for Europe tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you to Flash and Bacon for your wisdom. You were fantastic. I loved your commentary. Be sure to join us tomorrow. We have a lot going on. And why don't we just leave you with some of the best bits from today?
Pretty low health for Daniel, but he's a Black Panther. He's going to be fine. Kaz rejoining the fight. Chuck's going to help take down this turret as the fight rotates through the mid lane. And there's the big Dragon's Breath. Nice block on the Oblivion, and they just continue to burn on through. Team Solo Mid finding themselves a few more kills. Just absolutely tearing through Hammers at this point.
Goodness.
That middle turret is going to fall. The fight is on. That's Yumikat and Frenzy going to be locking up Shaded Talent, and he's going to, or sorry, not Shaded Talent. He's going to be going down in solo. And they're continuing to push on, eliminate the next target. Eliminate is going to fall. 3 kills, very bad, but now the fight is breaking out. See a lot of damage on to Truth and Delphi. It's actually Erica Kane that ends up falling first. Great focus from the side of Rogue. Nice bada boom, but it's going to be Glaive picking up a couple more kills. Another triple kill for Louis Vuitton. They're going to chase some more. He's not going to get the quadra, but